Hi guys, how's your day? Bad? Well, I will make it happy by some movies.
What was your family's most creative punishment? My father believed that women who misbehaved needed to lose a tooth for every offense. By the time I turned 18, my mother was missing half her mouth, and my older sister could barely chew solid food anymore. Dad kept the pliers in a special wooden box on the mantle like they were something to be proud of. He'd inherited them from his father, who'd inherited them from his father before that. 4 generations of keeping our women in line, he'd say, while polishing the metal until it gleamed. My brothers would nod along like this was completely normal, while us girls stayed silent because speaking up counted as misbehavior. The rules for what counted as misbehavior changed depending on Dad's mood. Burning dinner was always 1 tooth. Talking back was 2 teeth. Looking at him wrong when he was drunk could be 3 teeth depending on how drunk he was. Mom had lost her first tooth on their wedding night for crying too loudly. She'd lost 6 more over the years for various infractions like asking for grocery money or suggesting they visit her parents for Christmas. My sister Claire lost her first tooth at 13 for wearing lipstick she'd gotten from a friend at school. Dad had spotted the faint pink residue even after she'd tried to wipe it off in the bathroom. He'd called all of us into the living room for the ceremony like he always did. My brothers held her arms while Dad got his pliers, and Mom just stood there with tears rolling down her face, because crying silently wasn't considered misbehavior, but trying to intervene was worth at least 2 teeth. I learned to be invisible after watching what happened to Claire. Never spoke unless spoken to directly. Never made eye contact. Never did anything that could be interpreted as defiance. But perfection was impossible in our house because Dad would find reasons to punish us, even when we'd done nothing wrong. He'd claim we'd given him a look, or had an attitude in our voice that only he could detect. Mom tried to protect us in small ways without directly defying him. She'd warn us when he was in a particularly bad mood so we could hide in our rooms. She'd take blame for things we'd done, hoping he'd be satisfied with punishing just her. By the time I was 16, she was missing 12 teeth and could barely eat anything harder than soup. She covered her mouth when she talked and never smiled anymore. My sister Claire lost 4 more teeth over the next few years. 1 for coming home 5 minutes past curfew. 1 for getting a B on her report card instead of straight A's. 2 for refusing to quit her after-school job when Dad decided she was getting too independent. She started developing a lisp from the gaps in her mouth, and kids at school called her a hockey player because of all the missing teeth. The ritual was always the same. Dad would announce the infraction at dinner, then make us all gather in the living room. The guilty party would sit in the special chair they'd inherited along with the pliers. My brothers would hold her shoulders. Dad would make a speech about maintaining order and respecting authority while heating the pliers over a candle flame to sterilize them. Then he'd reach into her mouth while she tried not to scream because screaming was another tooth. I made it to 17 without losing any teeth, which Dad said was suspicious. "No woman is that well behaved," he'd mutter while staring at me during dinner. "You're hiding something." He started inventing infractions just to have an excuse. I'd apparently looked at him disrespectfully even though I hadn't looked at him at all. I'd walked too loudly on the stairs. My breathing was aggressive. He was building up to something and everyone knew it. Things changed when our cousin visited from the city and saw Mom's destroyed mouth. She pretended everything was normal during dinner, but I saw her taking pictures when she thought no one was looking. 2 days after she left, we had cops at our door. Someone had reported